Imagine that the leaders of the planet's largest companies do not see themselves just as executives, but as high priests of a new digital divinity about to be born. Imagine a world where democracy is considered an obsolete operating system, where universities are expected to disappear because robots will do all the intellectual work. This is not science fiction. According to neuroscientist Miguel Nicolelis, this is the exact mindset dominating the halls of power in Silicon Valley today. Bizarre, isn't it? Well, if you think this is bizarre, you are only looking at it through a religious lens. But if you look at it through an analytical, geopolitical perspective, you will see that it is even worse. What seems like a messianic delusion of eccentric billionaires is, in reality, a highly functional ideological architecture. It is not a religion in the traditional sense, but a set of beliefs strategically designed to justify the monopolization of our future. This movement is often grouped under the acronym TESCREAL: transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termism. The central idea binding these concepts is eschatological, the belief that we are on the brink of the singularity, the exact moment when artificial general intelligence will surpass human intelligence in incalculable ways. In this secular theology, AGI is the God that can either bring us post-scarcity immortality or completely annihilate the human race. This binary absolutism, paradise or extinction, creates a manufactured sense of extreme urgency. And historically, whenever an elite group convinces the public that the end of the world is at hand, ordinary morality and legal frameworks are immediately suspended. But where does this ideology lead us politically? The philosophical guru for powerful figures like Peter Thiel is Curtis Yarvin, the architect of the Neoreactionary movement, also known as NRX. Yarvin's thesis is not bizarre if you think like a software engineer obsessed with pure computational efficiency. To him, liberal democracy is a failed and inefficient operating system. It is too slow, too bureaucratic, and actively impedes real technological dominance. The NRX solution is radical. Treat the nation-state as a bankrupt joint stock corporation. The proposal is to liquidate democracy entirely and appoint a CEO monarch with absolute, unquestionable power. A corporate sovereign who maximizes value for the shareholders, meaning the elite owners of capital and technology, while eliminating the need for politicians, public debates, elections, and, fundamentally, your vote. The goal of this new system is not to govern you as a citizen, but to manage you as a purely economic asset. Now let us examine the even worse part: the empirical data that proves this eschatology is being used to mask a massive economic vulnerability. We must look at the real cash flow. The artificial intelligence industry is currently operating what mathematically resembles a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. Last year alone, these tech giants injected approximately $350 billion into infrastructure and capital expenditures. However, the actual revenue generated was less than 10% of that massive investment. The math simply does not add up. The current flow of capital is maintained purely by a financial herd effect, where investors pour billions in out of a fear of missing out, rather than based on any solid commercial viability. We are already seeing the cracks in this foundation. For example, Disney recently announced the cancellation of a $1 billion investment in OpenAI's video generation model, Sora. Why? Because the cash flow is evaporating. Without infinite injections of new capital, the structural deficit of the AI business model becomes dangerously exposed. Beyond the financial deficit, there is an insurmountable physical barrier: the thermodynamic bottleneck. The expansion plans of these big tech monopolies are violently colliding with the physical limits of the real world. To handle the projected data processing requirements for AI by the year 2030, the United States electrical grid would need to add power generation equivalent to the entire energy consumption of the state of California. This is a logistical, structural, and physical impossibility within a 3 to 4 year time frame. AI does not operate in a cloud of magic. It requires immense server farms, massive amounts of water for cooling systems, and gigawatts of electricity. The narrative of infinite exponential growth completely ignores the finite reality of our planetary infrastructure. They are selling an infinite computational future that simply cannot be powered. Furthermore, the moral hypocrisy of this system is glaring, especially when you contrast their supposed effective altruism with the reality of their supply chain. The efficiency of modern AI relies heavily on the severe exploitation of hyper-precarious human labor. Alexander Wang, the CEO of Scale AI, built a company valued at $14 billion by acting as what Nicolelis describes as a modern slave driver. To make AI models appear intelligent, companies need massive amounts of data labeling and content filtration, removing violent and explicit material from the datasets. How do they achieve this? By paying cents on the dollar per hour to the most vulnerable populations on Earth, including people living in refugee camps in Kenya. These workers have no labor rights, no psychological support, and no job security. While Silicon Valley executives drink $500 wine in French castles and preach about a benevolent digital god that will save humanity in 1,000 years, they are actively funding a system of modern data slavery today. The eschatological ends are being used to justify highly predatory means in the present. This brings us to the ultimate strategic maneuver: regulatory capture. When big tech CEOs go to Congress begging for regulation because AI is as dangerous as a nuclear weapon, they are not being altruistic. They want to construct regulatory barriers to entry so high and complex that only their billion-dollar oligopolies can legally operate. This strategy deliberately kills market competition and suffocates the open-source community. In short, do not analyze these companies solely as technology producers. They are operating as geopolitical entities using a quasi-religious narrative to force sovereign governments to yield power and to manipulate investors into ignoring a catastrophic financial reality. The real dispute is not about who will make the best chatbot. It is a war over who will secure the computational power, the energy grid, and the regulatory authority to dictate the rules of the global economy and your individual life in the coming decades. Their eschatology is the power strategy that society is blindly financing. And you? Do you think this technocratic vision is the inevitable future? Or is it just a dangerous, unsustainable, ideological bubble that is mathematically destined to burst? Leave your geopolitical analysis in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe for more deep, data-driven analysis that the mainstream media ignores. Until next time.